We've seen the brilliant, the spectacular, the awe-inspiring movies that have graced us in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, now it is time to take a look at the rotten apples of the tree. In this video, I will be ranking the top 5 worst MCU movies, applying the same formula I used for my previous ranking video. I will try and remain as objective as possible, putting aside personal issues I have with certain movies to give a more comprehensive overview of the movie. Without further ado, let's start the ranking. Coming in at number 5, we have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now, this movie suffers from the same problems as the first Black Panther, along with that lovely Phase 4 zest. The plot is incoherent and it breaks apart several times throughout the movie. Thematically, it's a mess. They fail to maintain tone at crucial points. Character development is ambiguous or compromised at times, with people being introduced so fast and without purpose. They don't know what they're doing, which leads to decision making being driven by incompetence at most points. And that's a classic trope in Phase 4. And the world building is poorly done. They haven't properly established or understood Wakanda as a country. Its selective use of such a versatile substance, primitive means of succession and power, in what is meant to be the most powerful nation on Earth, along with the way the country reacts to and behaves with the rest of the world, whilst holding this superiority complex, it's all very frustrating. And now they've introduced another powerful ethno-state that's able to destroy Wakanda. The opening and closing scenes are a nice tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Honestly, they feel quite disconnected from the movie. There were some standout performances, most notably Angela Bassett, but ultimately this movie was written for the purpose of mourning the loss of a beloved character, and therefore the writing didn't benefit from character performances or story. Up next we have Black Widow, the movie that started the dumpster fire that was Phase 4. Of course, we have the usual plot holes and plot contrivances that have become all too common, along with some insane plot armor integrated into scenes with embarrassing special effects.
This was fun! No!
My eyes!
The world building is a mess. We're shown events occurring that are incompatible with the main MCU timeline. The film doesn't like the concept of cause to effect. The thematic through lines are that of the importance of family, except the Avengers, which Natasha describes as being her family, aren't included in such a high-stakes movie, and her adopted family are mostly a hindrance throughout the film. She also has a blood family which are referenced, but no interest is shown to find them. As mentioned, there are many plot stretches, strains, and gaping holes that result in the movie being built on inconsistent and nonsensical elements. I can't cite a single plot thread that doesn't suffer in one way or another. Black Widow as a character was assassinated in this movie, whether it's using a little girl as bait to kill Dreykov and failing, or burying hundreds of people in a prison to break out a super soldier who allied with Dreykov. Natasha Romanoff is a character that the MCU felt needed to be blurred in terms of hero or villain. Black Widow is a poorly written movie that introduces high stakes without understanding how these stakes should be matched. It was a disastrous introduction to Phase 4. Number 3. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Most of the time I reference this as a Phase 4 movie, and that's because I generally can't tell the difference between this and the previous projects. It has the same problems as the previous movies on this list. The film is definitely the worst in terms of humour and dialogue, which is a real disappointment considering this movie was set up to be quite tragic and melancholic in its design. The audience, for the most part, were expecting the death of either Scott Lang or Hank Pym, and there were certain scenes that felt reshot but with a changed script. The world building and bending of the quantum realm is ridiculous. Apparently, they mapped out the entire quantum realm. Yes, they mapped out a subatomic universe that is in constant flux. It shouldn't surprise me that the writers didn't look into quantum mechanics before playing around with the premise of it. Scott Lang's daughter is insufferable. She contributes plenty to the bad dialogue, and her presence in the movie feels off.
Just don't be a dick!
It's never too late to stop being a dick.
I swear, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Although characters like her will likely be the moral centre of the MCU going forward. I also love how every child is the new Tony Stark ever since his death, child genius and that. There was an attempt at family strife, except it felt forced and unnecessary. These issues should have been resolved before this movie takes place. This movie felt like one of those and then stories, quote unquote, with key events being driven by nonsensical circumstances, mainly unexplained and stupid decisions by our protagonists. The only reason this movie isn't worse off is because the next two entries either completely destroy beloved characters without reasoning, or give us a completely broken and laughably bad script that disintegrates at the first hurdle. Number 2. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This may be surprising to some people, a shock even, but it's seriously baffling how many people think this is a good movie, a mid-movie even, while I'm here to tell you that this movie is a joke. Similarly to the Loki TV series, this movie takes mechanics that are very difficult to mould into strong, coherent stories. That being said, what followed shocked me in how catastrophic it was. Let's start with the more obvious issues first. The world has either ignored or disregarded the events of WandaVision, with Doctor Strange making clear that he knew what was happening in Westview but allowed Wanda to continue with her immoral and villainous actions. The treatment of Reed Richards and the Illuminati is often referenced, and for good reason, as one of the more annoying scenes in the movie. It introduced beloved characters just to have them killed in the most irritating and contrived ways.
Wanda, Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
Oh no, bro!
The very first minutes of the movie result in the total collapse of the following plot and script, because Defender Strange had a sling ring, which means he could have used it to either remove the monster from this region of space, or move America Chavez and himself closer to the Book of Vishanti. And the Memory Store. Unacceptable! Good lord, this is the epitome of lazy writing. I would gladly send anyone who tries to defend this type of exposition to the Blender dimension. Every sequence of the movie relies on crazy plot armor, very convenient or inconvenient things that are a result of luck, and of course the massive plot holes that, if mentioned, would throw this whole movie into the shredder.
I will personally put you through the shredder!
Multiverse of Madness fails to respect the stories that it built, whilst introducing new mechanics that will dictate the storytelling of future movies, leading to them being inherently broken. To put it simply, this movie is overrated and awful. I haven't even scratched the surface of the mountain of issues in this film, but if you would like a more detailed breakdown, I recommend the video made by the YouTuber Mauler. It's nearly 6 hours long, so you should expect a very comprehensive overview of this abomination of a film. Number 1. Thor, Love and Thunder. So there's not much separating this movie from Multiverse of Madness in holding the title for Worst MCU Movie. But whilst Doctor Strange is made incompetent in his film, the treatment of Thor in Love and Thunder is on another level in terms of character assassination. This movie is a perfect example of cheap jokes ruining both story and character. Taika Waititi has openly said that he doesn't care about the mythos or lore behind the MCU, and in particular Thor, so the film doesn't hesitate to make sly jokes about previous entries that we know and love.
And that guy, and whoever that is.
I'm getting really sick of you!
The narrative in this movie is very shallow. I mean, Gore wants to kill all gods. Why? Well, this is never explored or justified. Speaking of Gore, underusing Christian Bale is criminal. You have an A-list actor who thrives and adapts to play any role with excellence, but he's wasted in a film with a joking tone that doesn't take itself seriously. He didn't have nearly enough screen time to flesh out or explore his character. Korg, on the other hand, the self-insert for Taika, had far too much screen time. He worked in Thor Ragnarok, and I enjoyed him in Thor Ragnarok, but that's because the writers knew when not to include him in scenes, because his very presence drains any sense of threat, struggle, emotional growth. The comedy takes away any stakes from our protagonists. Unrestrained by budget, this movie prioritised spectacle and cheap gags over crafting a strong story that would set up future movies or character arcs well. Whilst there are great performances, including Christian Bale and Chris Hemsworth, I struggle to find many redeemable qualities in Thor Love and Thunder. The film is very aware of its treatment of Thor and his arc in the previous movies, and this self-awareness is infuriating. To summarise, Thor Love and Thunder lacks heavily in character, has a simple yet messy plot, and although the story doesn't break apart completely like Multiverse of Madness, the character work is atrocious, and I see character as a pillar of strong storytelling. I can overlook, to an extent, narrative or plot issues, if the characters are handled well, but what the MCU has done to Thor is unforgivable, and for that reason this movie takes the number 1 spot on my list.
You know, the good news is you're Asgardians, so if you die, you'll end up in Valhalla.
Oh my god, go away.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Thank you all for watching. Like I said, I made a previous video ranking the top 5 best MCU movies. If you would like to check that out, you're more than welcome to. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss an upload. and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone, and peace.
Now taking the Holy